All right, so today I'm going to be talking a bit about the Warnock and Herschel Walker debate, but just the part where they're talking about the federal minimum wage. I just wanted to kind of express my thoughts about how they both talk about this issue. And yeah, we'll just get right into it.
And according to the U.S. Census Bureau, 14% of Georgians live in poverty. The federal minimum wage is $7.25 an hour, a number that has not increased since 2009. Let's do this by a simple showing of hands. Raise your hand if you support a federal minimum wage. Okay, Mr. Walker, you did not raise your hand, so I'd like.
All right, so yeah, neither of them raised their hand here, and I want to assume that Warnock maybe misunderstood the question. I know when he was saying it the first time I listened to it, I thought he would maybe ask like if they supported raising it, not just if they supported having one at all. And also because Warnock later, or not later, but earlier, when he was elected, would go on to raise, or he would vote to raise the minimum wage. So I don't think he's opposed to having one. And also by what he says later in here.
I'd like to ask you, first of all, why not, and what would you do to help struggling Georgians?
Well, when you say a federal, I think right now, and he said that I want the federal government. No, he wants the federal government to run your life. Right now, I think you have to work with different corporations and see just where they can pay. There are some companies right now, and he should know this, after getting the All-Star game moved out of Atlanta, they destroyed a lot of small businesses. So those small businesses couldn't pay $15, $20 an hour. So
yeah, I'm going to be blunt here. If a business can't pay its employees a livable wage, then they should fail as a business. The government coddles these corporations so much, but they don't give any sympathy, any amount of that sympathy to the working class Americans. And it's just sickening. Something that also helps companies gain profits is when people have thicker wallets. When we're in a recession and no one has much money to spare, we're not going to be buying new cars, new furniture, a lot of things we don't need. We're going to be spending as little money as we can, and we're just going to be buying the bare necessities. If you want more customers, you need to start paying people more.
they have to pay what they're capable of paying. So to mandate a federal fee that they have to pay hourly.
Also, in relation to this, a lot of people also say that, okay, well, if you increase the minimum wage that a company has to pay, then they're just going to increase their prices. First off, I don't mind a small increase in price if it means that the people behind the counter can get paid, can live in a house and not worry about, their next bills. But I also think it's a necessity that the government steps in to make sure that those companies and businesses don't exploit their workers and don't do things to try to game the system. Their job is supposed to be to look after the American people. We saw very early in American history what happens when the government doesn't check to ensure that companies treat their workers right. People would lose appendages in meat factories, get crushed in machinery. Children would grow up with breathing difficulties, working as chimney cleaners. Workers would be trapped in fires consuming the entire building. They would get paid in credits that could only be used at the company's store, making it impossible to work and live anywhere else. All of these are very creative ways to put down the working class and to make sure that you have a stranglehold on them so they can't go anywhere. But these corporations, they've brainwashed us into believing that when the government does just the slightest bit of their job to ensure that they help the American people, they've brainwashed us into believing that when the government does that, that they're actually attacking us, attacking everyday working Americans. And it's the same as when workers who want to unionize and the company will start you're spouting some BS about how the union disrupts the family structure of the company. And it's just bullshit. And it's cult-like behavior. Your job is your job, period. If you want to devote a lot more time and effort into your work, that is completely fine. But employers should not be forcing or even expecting people to consider their jobs as a second family and devote all of their attention to it.
The wage, no, I couldn't approve that.
Thank you, Mr. Walker. Senator Warnock, you did not raise your hand, so why not, and what would you do to help struggling Georgians?
I believe in the dignity of work, and I believe in the dignity of workers. I watched my dad work really hard to take care of his family, and I've seen what we call...
You know, it'd be great if you didn't have to work that hard, or if you did want to work that hard, if you would have been compensated a bit fairer. And, you know, I guarantee you the company is not willing to lose a few profits for their workers. You know, the company has to be forced into doing it, which should be your job.
Essential workers, these folks who are on the front line, stand up for us in the midst of the pandemic. We call them essential workers. They deserve an essential wage and essential benefits. In other words, workers deserve to participate in the prosperity that they are creating for others.
All right, this is something that I just hate. And, you know, not what Warnock is saying, but just the fact that society would fall apart in hours even, if not for our garbage men, our custodians, our drivers, our chefs, so on and so forth. And they get absolutely blasted on with their wages. They provide such an essential role to our society, yet they get treated and paid like shit. And that's just awful and unfair. And I know people are going to tell me that life is unfair, but shouldn't it be our duty to try to make it more fair?
And so I've been a part of this conversation around the minimum wage. I think people need a livable wage. And some of that is being addressed right now in this strong labor market. So I'm willing to work with folks in the corporate community as well as the labor community to figure.
Yeah, see, I don't want a senator that's going to work and talk with these corporations. I want a senator that will make these corporations submit to doing what's right for their employees, because it's long been overdue. You just saw the beginning of the video.
U.S. Census Bureau, 14% of Georgians live in poverty.
14% still living in poverty. Federal minimum wage still $7.25.
Federal minimum wage is $7.25.
You can't live off of anything with $7.25 an hour. Even if you were working literally nonstop, 24/7, that's not enough to pay for a lot of. You can't pay rent with that kind of money. You can't pay bills. You can't pay for anything.
An hour, a number that has not increased since 2009. Let's do this by.
Like, it's long overdue for the minimum wage to increase.
They deserve benefits.
Thank you, Senator Warnock. We're going to move to our next topic. Tina?
Yeah, that's all I want to say now. I just wish that, honestly, both sides would, and like, yeah, there's one side that's actually trying to fight a bit harder for it, but I do want both sides to actually be more aggressive on just helping working class Americans, just trying to do what's right. And I just really want everyone to come together and just know the value that you have and know your worth, because it's something that corporations just try to tell you. They try to say that you're irreplaceable, or they try to tell you that you're replaceable, but you're not as replaceable as they think.